Satchel from Steel Panther. You're listening to Metal Stream Radio with Metal Matt, and he's totally naked from the waist down.
Took my time.
Metal Matt, Alice Cooper here. Good name, by the way. I'll tell Rob that I talked to you. You're a singer-songwriter.
So
and the best thing I can say to a guy like Metal Matt is, whatever you do, don't rust.
Hey guys, Metal Matt here, and I've got the honor of welcoming Dennis Dunaway from the original Alice Cooper band onto the channel today. Played on such albums, Muscle of Love, Billion Dollar Babies, School's Out, of course, you know, the iconic School's Out album. And now there's a new album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. After all these years, you're back together, and you're dropping an album, which is, you know, news which all the Alice Cooper fans are going crazy for at the moment, because it was kept under your hat for so long. It was such a surprise for everyone, you know, that you're actually back together doing an album. So tell me a bit about that. How did you all get back together to do this? And
well, it was a step-by-step process. I mean, we would get together with Alice for his fundraisers for the Solid Rock Teen Centers out in Phoenix, Arizona, where Alice and his wife Cheryl are big participants. So we would get together for those, and then we would submit songs for Alice's solo albums and get together to record those. And then when I wrote my book, I think that kind of helped bring people together, even though before that, even in 2011, we were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we were on stage performing for that, with Steve Hunter on guitar and a bunch of children singing School's Out with us. But so all of these things kind of brought everybody back together. And when I put out my book, Snakes, Guillotines, Electric Chairs, My Adventures in the Alice Cooper Group, I did a book event at a record store in Dallas, Texas. And I got Neil and Michael and Alice to show up for a big surprise concert right in the record store. And they filmed that, and they also recorded it, which they weren't planning to do that professionally. They were just doing it for their own, you know, safekeeping. But it turned out so well that that was released live from the AstroTurf, Alice Cooper, by this guy, Chris Penn, who has since, in recent years, passed away. But he made this whole thing happen, and that brought us together. And then I get a call, like a couple years ago, I get a call from Alice and Bob Ezrin. They're like, "Hey, Dan, you know, we've been out in, Alice was out in Phoenix, and Neil and Michael were there, and they were getting together and kicking around ideas for the fun of it." And then they said, well, we were thinking, do you want to do an album? And I said, well, hello, what do you think I've been saying for 51 years now?
exactly.
Yeah. It's like you're preaching to the choir here. So then they were saying, oh, okay. I was saying, oh, what do you have, like a theme or anything, so I can make sure I have songs for that? And they said, no, we'll do the best of the lot. And I said, oh, the cream of the crop. And they both started laughing because my phone had cut out. They thought I said cream of the crap. And they decided that's going to be the name of the album.
That sounds good. Yeah, that would have worked.
But this thing was like, so that was like over 2 years ago. And so we submit a bunch of songs, and Neil and I sending them between us and sending them to Bob and all of this. And, you know, and then there would be a long period where we wouldn't hear anything about it. So we'd think, oh, well, this isn't going to happen again. And then we get a call, hey, Alice is going to be in Phoenix, and Neil and Michael are out here. Dennis, fly on out and let's get together in the studio. So it was just the four of us in the recording studio at one of the Solid Rock Teen Centers. And we were just, having fun and jamming and playing this song or that, kind of just going, flying by the seat of our pants. But it was designed, Bob Ezrin wasn't there intentionally. He agreed that it was a good idea just to get the band back together in a room and working on stuff. And it was like not really necessary. We didn't have any rust to get on. We didn't have to like get anything back. It was already still there, so but we had a blast. And that helped bring things more focused. But then another long period of nothing happening. So, oh boy. So we had submitted, I bet we had more than 70 songs submitted between Neil and Michael and I. And then Bob said, oh, well, let's get together in the studio with me. And he booked some studio. I said, wait a minute, I'm not sure about that place. You didn't like it last time. So I said, I've got an idea. And so we booked Carriage House Studios, which Neil and I had worked at before many times over the years. I even narrated the audio for my book there. But also Bob Ezrin used to live near that studio, and at one point he had a lot of his equipment there, and he had done some recordings there with other bands. So this fell into place nicely because by then Neil was out here near this studio, and so was I. So Michael flew out, and Alice and Bob were there, and we went into the studio. I thought to choose which 10 of the 70 songs we wanted to do, and, because there's no way. I kept asking them, what songs do you want to do? I don't want to learn 70 songs, Definitely. So I could not get an answer. It kept changing. And so I thought we were just going to go and pick the songs and whip them into shape and then, book some studio time later to actually lay them down. But no. Walked into the studio and we were recording.
Wow, so that's a bit of pressure.
Yeah, but it was great. And so it was combined like the way we used to rehearse to whip songs into shape in pre-production before we went into the studio in the old days. So it was, a lot of it was just us following wherever the creative gods were directing us. We just went, we just make up a song, or we would just all of a sudden do a song that we thought was not even really in the running. So a lot of stuff like that. But we were all, we've been around the block a few times, so we know the studio, and we've watched Bob Ezrin and other, very professional producers and engineers, and Jack Douglas and Jack Richardson, and we've worked with the best. So we were like sponges and soaked that all up. So the reason we could do this album without doing 2 weeks of pre-production, there's two reasons. Number one, we had learned so much since the old days about how to take a song apart and put it back together properly. And also because of technology. Now, if we decide we want the arrangement to be different, we can cut and paste. In the old days, that was a big deal.
I'm sure.
In fact, in the old days, even if I had one bass note that I wanted to change, Jack Richardson would make me record the whole song again.
Oh no!
That was on "Love It to Death" and "Killer" and "Muscle of Love." If I had one note, I had to record the whole song again, the whole track. Because he was a bass player, and he would just say, hey, you're going to be playing this song a million times in your life, so you man up and get in there,
Yeah, it makes sense.
But now, and therefore, since a lot of it was so spontaneous, a lot of it was us just trying to agree on an arrangement so that we could lay down the track, and me watching the guitar player's chord hand for the songs that I didn't know that well, and then Bob in the control room in our headphones, we could hear him say, "Here comes the bridge," and stuff like that. That's how new these songs were. Wow. So I could, and there's a lot of pressure there when you do that, a lot of pressure, but we stay focused at the job at hand, and each guy has his own specialty, and we all know what each other's specialty is. If I think, hey, we need a new chord here, then we look at Michael. Hey, what's the tempo? We look at Neil. All of that, we all have worked together so long, it's all well established. But even though we're very focused and work really hard, we're willing to do a take 50 times if that's what it takes. Yeah. But we also have a lot of humor. We just had a blast. It was so much fun.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, it must have been great just being back together and back like the old days, I'm guessing. Did it kind of come back to you in the same way? Was it like a new experience, or was it like stepping in the studio years ago, apart from all the advancements that you talked about?
It was more like stepping into the studio in the old days, because when we get together, we all revert to high school kids, because that's where we all started together, so that sophomoric humor is rampant, and so it's in fact, in a way, because Glen Buxton was there in spirit, a lot of the feel was early in our friendship, so, I mean, we were in high school, we always put each other down all the time. It's sarcastic humor, and we expect it. If I walk out of the room, I know when I walk back in, somebody's already whittled me down, Yeah. and then when they walk out, then it's their turn. Wow. So that also had a lot to do with Glen Buxton's spirit, which is very prominent on the second half of this album, because more and more as the album goes on, it goes more and more in the direction of our early days as the Spiders, and the kind of music that in the days when Glen was the only real musician in the band, and he was showing us how to play these certain types of 3-chord progression songs and all of that. So the album keeps going along, and then about 2/3 of the way through, all of a sudden it just starts getting more and more Glen Buxton, and I'm very proud of how we managed to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like he was definitely with you in spirit.
Hey, this is Satchel from Steel Panther. You're listening to Metal Stream Radio with Metal Matt, and he's totally naked from the waist down.